Hi everybody, my name is Brianna. I am a physical and mental disability advocate, and today we are doing part 2 of my tips for college students and how to deal with disabilities in college. This is more of after you're planning, after you've applied and gotten into school. This is more of what to do to get started later. We're starting off with one that you need anyways, but I just felt like I needed to point it out because I didn't do this last semester. Try to keep good sleep hygiene. I've been doing it this semester and it's been helping me out an absolute ton. So just try and say, I am going to go to bed at this time. That time doesn't have to be the best time ever, but you need to be okay, I am planning on being in my dorm by 12 a.m. If that's what you need to do. I did 11, but if you're I want to party, you can still have a party and still say, I'm going to bed at 12 a.m. You have to be in bed by 12. That's the thing for me, is I have to be in bed by 11. Not even in bed by 11, in my room, in my dorm, getting ready for bed by 11. And I think that's helping me out a lot, that you don't need to deal with your physical or mental disabilities plus not having enough sleep. It's just not worth it. Next up, the main thing that I'm going to say is digitize as much as you can. Obviously, if you are I have to have paper, that's okay, I understand. But if you're I can't physically lift my books, then don't get books. Get ebooks. If your school doesn't want to give you ebooks, first of all, you can find them online usually. They're usually cheaper. And second of all, you can request ebooks from the school. And the school can email somebody and get them for you. It's not ideal as somebody who has to have ebooks. Sometimes I just have to have the physical book. As somebody who has to have ebooks, I sometimes can't get those ebooks very easily, and it's not ideal. But if you can get ebooks, get ebooks. If only for the fact that it makes it more readily accessible for people who need ebooks. If more people are requesting ebooks, the schools will give out more ebooks. Versus right now, schools are everybody gets the books. Nobody wants the ebooks. I want the ebooks. For a bunch of reasons, but partially because I'm going blind. Can I have the ebook, please? Please, sir. May I have an ebook? Sometimes they're free. We went off topic. If you are visually impaired, I'm going to share this one website for you. Bookshare gives you free ebooks and audiobooks. You have to have an official diagnosis from your doctor, a letter from your doctor saying, hey, this person is visually impaired. And they will give you a link to this book. And you have to renew it each year for some reason. But if you're from the school, it'll just give it to you for free. I think it's a certain amount of money a year if you don't go to school, but that's beside the point. Bookshare, look into that if you're visually impaired or blind. On the digitize everything thing, digitize your notes. If you want to type your notes, there is the stereotypical Google Docs and X-Tiles for things. Google Docs and Evernote for things. I personally like this new website that I found called X-Tiles. I think it's really cool. It's really neat. It can be incredibly overwhelming and overstimulating if you get started with it. So look at it. It's free to start off. And if you're I don't think this is for me, you don't have to use it. But you can try it, and it's really, really helpful once you learn how to use it. It's just the learning how to use it thing is there's a little bit of a learning curve there. But those are really awesome. If you're I don't want to type, I want to write. There are two things you can do. One, buy a tablet and pencil. Or if you have a tablet and pencil, use a tablet and pencil. And use GoodNotes. There's other websites out there or apps out there, but GoodNotes is one that you can pay for that literally is a digital textbook. It's great. You can also use, I think Evernote might do similar things. I'm not positive. GoodNotes does it phenomenally well. I use that one on my iPad for a lot of different things, but I've stopped being able to see my own handwriting quite as well, so I haven't done it as much. But that one works well for you can change the colors, you can copy and paste, you can do all this stuff. If you want to keep notebooks still, but you're like, I don't want to keep a giant binder full of handouts, you can digitize your handouts. There's literally, it's called Scannable, or there's like scanning apps where you put your piece of paper down, you put your phone over it, and it'll just scan it with your camera, and then it digitizes it into a PDF, and you can take that PDF and put it on your computer. And you can sort all that into Xtiles, Evernote, or Google Docs, and it's all in there, and you don't have to keep track of all the papers. So that's another thing to keep out of your backpack. I personally don't have to carry around books anymore. I have my laptop, that's it. I don't have books, I don't have textbooks, I don't have paper. I keep one pen for when I inevitably need to sign whatever roster a professor brings around. And so I have one pen so I don't have to ask the person next to me for a pen. Other than that, I don't really do anything like that anymore. That doesn't mean that I can't do art. I am an artist, and I do like art. And I've been getting into physical painting again. That's on the side note. But that doesn't mean that I can do it all the time. That it's a muscle, and the muscle for me is super weak and super strained, so I don't need to deal with that. On to the next thing. I'm going to say this, and I need you to listen. It's very important. You need to establish a relationship with your professor. It is so important that you hear me on this. Your grade, your ability to pass the class can hinge entirely on whether or not your professor understands your disability. Now, this does not mean that your professor needs to know exactly what your disability is, but if you are frequently late to class or frequently missed class, you can have accommodations for that, but it doesn't mean that your professor is happy about it. You can be late for work. Your professor might not necessarily believe that you actually were late, had a disability problem. They might just be like, they're not planning things out. Establish a relationship with your professor immediately, right out of the gate. I didn't do that last semester and I failed a class. Don't get me wrong, it was partially the professor was not a good professor and I didn't like them, so I didn't establish a relationship, but if you can, do so. Let them know personally what to expect from you in class. Now, you don't have to say, hi, I have diabetes. This is how things work. I don't, but I was like, random thing that's not my disability. I have diabetes. You can expect this from me. It's more like, I'm trying to think of a way I wanted to bring up a new disability that I don't always talk about. It's more like, hey, I might have to step out of class for a reason or two. You might see me snacking in class. These are things that you might expect from me. If, say, you have ADHD, like I do, you can say, hey, just to be aware, I am paying attention in class. It might not look how you expect somebody to look when they're paying attention, but I am paying attention. Here are what you can expect. And I kind of just left a list of you might see me listening to music in class. I'm not actually listening to music, I'm paying attention to you, but I'm listening to headphones. You might see me playing games in class. I promise I am listening to you. It just is easier for me if I've got something else to do. I might not make eye contact with you. Here's the reason why. Things like that. You can just say, you can list all of them, or you can just say, hey, I am paying attention, but I don't quite work the same way that other people do. Just give them something to go off of so that they have an understanding that you are a good student. You're not just going through this as fast as possible. Utilize their office hours. You don't have to utilize them all the time, but it is very, very helpful if you are struggling with anything, or if you need to know. My first personal problem is I will just they'll hide another homework assignment somewhere and I'll just miss where it is. So I have gone to every one of my professors and been like, hey, when is your homework due? Is it done on a consistent day? How do I find all of that homework? And it made it a little bit easier for me. If you're going to their office hours and you have questions, write them down beforehand. If you usually get flustered or if you usually forget, write them down beforehand. If you have a mental disability and you learn in a different way from other people, maybe send them a YouTube video about, say, ADHD. This is how ADHD people learn. You can just explain, hey, I sometimes need this explained really simply, or hey, I need instructions written out for me because verbal instructions go in one ear and out the other. You can also say, like, hey, I struggle to read, so you might have to read things for me, or you might have to just say what it says. Things like that. Explain it to them, because they are assuming that you are on a neurotypical level, and so they're trying to meet you here, and you're here, and then you need to, like, maybe you're not even here and here. More like, they're here, you're here, and you have to make it halfway so that they can meet you the other halfway, so that they can actually have a conversation. It's not so much that you're at a deficit, it's that you're at this place, and they're in this place, and you've got to, like, meet them halfway. Email them when you are struggling. Now, there are so many people out there who have done the whole "my dog ate my homework" bullcrap. The number of times that somebody has told a professor that their grandma died and they need to be skipped from class. They just don't want to listen sometimes. But if you at the beginning of the semester say, hey, this is what to expect, and you can expect me to occasionally miss class due to a disability, you don't have to say what disability. You can just say, due to a disability, you may see me miss class. And then make sure you, like, follow up with them. Hey, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it to class today. I'm not feeling well. Hey, I'm not going to be able to make it to class today. I'm sorry I missed class today. Can you catch me up on what I missed? That helps them out. That lets them know that you're not just flaking. You're not just doing whatever. You're actually trying. And they want to know that you're actually trying and not just half-assing the entire class. Make friends with your classmates. Some people go to class and they just, like, get there, do their homework, and leave. And they don't want to talk to anybody. And I get that. That can be difficult. If you sit in the same place every single class, make friends with the person next to you. And all you gotta do is say, hey, do you want to, like, if I miss class, you keep up with me. If you miss class, I keep up with you. And, like, you keep each other accountable. I personally, this semester, told my ASL professor, hey, I have ASL 102. I want to make a group chat for it. Can you, like, email all of your students for 102 classes and just let them know in case they want to join? You don't have to, like, meet face-to-face or anything like that. You can tell them, I don't really want to meet face-to-face. Y'all are welcome to make out a time. Here's the place to talk about it. And then if you are missing class, you can say, hey, I'm missing class. Any classmates for ASL 101, hey, I'm missing class. Is there anybody in ASL 10202 that can tell her, hey, I'm missing class? And or that can tell me what I missed. Things like that. Exchanging notes, that's super helpful. If you forget events a lot of times, you can make this group chat and then be like, hey, are there any projects this week that I'm missing? I know of this one. And they can keep you up to date. And you can ask clarifying questions about assignments. I had issues last semester with a professor that just, he was really awesome and I loved him as a person. As a professor, he was still trying to learn a little bit, and so he rambled a lot in trying to explain things, and he explained things in this many pages when it needed to be like this many pages. So I would be like, hey, I don't quite know what I'm doing for this class. And they'd be like, I did it this way. And you'd be like, okay, that makes sense. I know what I'm doing. And maybe sometime you can help somebody else that way. And then again, swapping notes is super important. If you miss class one day and they have the notes for the class, it is so important to have somebody that can just, like, send you links to the notes. So even if you make friends with one person, if you're out, that person can help it for you. And if they're out, you can help them. I talked about this last episode, but if you're frequently late to class, you gotta ask yourself why. And that's not, like, blaming you, but, like, you need to figure out a way around it. So why are you frequently late to class? Let's think about this. If body no worky, me no walk to class on time, I get that. that is my main reason for being late to class. That was the biggest struggle I had, and I had to tell every professor, hey, I need to be late to class because I have to walk to class every time. Now, first thing I did was get a cane. Canes are phenomenal. They're incredibly helpful. So get yourself a mobility aid. If you are struggling to walk to class, consider a mobility aid. Consider whether or not that would be helpful for you. If you've been considering getting a mobility aid, it's now the time to get the mobility aid. Try it out, even if you buy a cheap one on Amazon. Get yourself one that you will actually want to use. Try it out, see if it works for you, and if it doesn't, sell it. If it was that expensive, sell it. If you are like, I don't want the mobility aid, or if you're like, the mobility aid would be great, I want the mobility aid, I just don't think I have the energy to walk to class, that's me. I have a cane, I use the cane frequently, but I can't walk 3 blocks. It's really bad. So I have an e-scooter, and that's not like one that I sit on, it's like a razor, like a super like foldable, it folds up, you stand on it, 2-wheel scooter. And it's an electric scooter. I paid like, I think the max I've paid is like $350 for one. And I think the last one I paid for was like $250. If you're looking for one, go for Black Friday deals are the best time to buy one. I personally recommend buying a foldable one. You want a foldable one to be able to store it pretty easily, to be able to transport it back and forth from school, things like that. You need to make sure that the school allows it, and if the school doesn't allow it, but you need it for your physical health, you can get that as an accommodation. I have a school that allows it, and I have asked them, hey, am I allowed to ride on the sidewalks? Am I allowed to ride it in the road? What are the rules around it? And basically, they told me, because I didn't have very many rules around it, that as long as you don't ride it in the hallways, you can take it inside and charge it. And as long as you don't run anybody over, you can ride in the road or on the sidewalk, depending on which is necessary. So that is the best thing that has happened to me at school. And I have occasionally had something happen to that scooter, like my tire broke. That was awful. I use it, it literally is a mobility aid for me. So if you struggle to get from point A to point B and you don't have the ability to get a wheelchair yet, that would be the best option, would probably be an electric wheelchair, which is what I'm going for. But if you're like, I can't do an electric wheelchair for various reasons, e-scooters are a great first step to getting a mobility aid. They're incredibly helpful, and they're significantly cheaper than a wheelchair. Like, I can get one for like a couple $100. If you want to go a step further and you prefer a bike, you can actually get e-bikes. They're incredibly helpful as well, and that's my next goal, is to get an e-bike. I want the mobility wheelchair. I want the wheelchair at some point, but I also don't need the wheelchair all the time. So when I don't need the wheelchair, I want an electric bike because I can no longer drive. So that's my next step. Now, if body worky, brain no worky, I've got some ideas for you. If you're overestimating the time that you are getting to class and you're just constantly late because you're like, I'm sorry, I'm running behind. There can be like reasons why you're doing that. Either you're overestimating how much time you have and you're like, I got time to do the thing, or you're procrastinating getting up. We'll talk about procrastination here in a minute, because procrastination talks about a lot of problems with school. But overestimating the time it takes you to get there, first of all, you can like look at how long it takes you to get there, time that, and then add time to that. So like, say you're sitting down by your desk, you realize it's time to go to class, or you have an alarm that tells you it's time to go to class. Time from there, how long it takes you to get up, get ready, get out the door, get to and get outside and get to your destination and get seated in your seat. How long does that take? Because it seems really like sometimes for some groups of people, it's every single one of those things you really notice. And then sometimes for other people, you're like, oh, I need to just get out the door and go. It'll be that easy. And then you forget that you have to get up. You have to get all your stuff. Maybe you have to get dressed. You definitely have to get your shoes on. All of these things before you get to class. So time how long it takes. Or assume how long it takes and add 3 to that. Time that times 3. It'll take me 5 minutes to get there. No, it'll take you 15. It'll take me 15 minutes to get there. I want you to assume that it's going to take you half an hour to 45 minutes to get there. You'll get to class on time. Now let's say that you aren't actually overestimating how much time you have. You just scramble to get out the door because you don't know what to do, and you're like, oh, I need this. Oh, I need this. I need to grab that. I need to grab that. I need to grab that. That is also something that can happen. And if you struggle with that, you need to make a list of what you need when you get out the door. So, like, sit down and think about it. Think, I need all of these things. Even if you do it when you get to your destination, now what did I grab? And what did I actually need to grab that I forgot? Or what did I grab that I didn't need? Write out a list. Put it next to the door. You know, okay, I'm about ready to leave. Go to your list. Go, okay, I need all these things. Another thing that's How to ADHD has talked about a lot is point of performance, which is basically having everything in one spot. You're making coffee. Everything for coffee is within arm's reach of you. You're about to get out the door. Everything you need to leave is within arm's reach of the door. It's phenomenal. When I know that I need to leave, everything is in my backpack, ready to go. I've occasionally left my backpack behind, but it needs to be at point of performance or else I'm going to forget it. I didn't have it at point of performance. So that's this whole thing. If you are procrastinating studying, here's what I can tell you about that. So there are a lot of reasons why you procrastinate, and I will link a video below on how to ADHD and procrastinating, because she did some really awesome explanations about it. But if it seems like it's a huge task, break it down into smaller tasks. Write out what you need to do, break it down into a smaller task, and write out what needs to be done for that. And then just like, instead of trying to eat an elephant, you take a bite out of the elephant and you eat the elephant one bite at a time. So take the big thing and make it into a bunch of small things. That's how I do it. If you just can't get yourself started, make it novel, make it interesting. Try studying a new place or doing something new when you're doing it. If you have a stress ball, do the stress ball. If you're studying at the gym, you can do that. If you go to, I don't know, some random classroom and do it, that's a cool, like, unique place to do things. Not unique, but interesting place to do things. I've heard of some people studying in the bathtub. I don't have a bathtub at school, but you can do that. You can definitely study in the bathtub. The Pomodoro method is a big one for me. It is basically you study for a certain amount of time, then you take a short break, then you study for a short amount of time again, a certain amount of time again, then you take a long break. You can look up the Pomodoro method. It's another link that I will link below. But it's a really nice method for that kind of thing. I usually do like 15 minutes of work, 15 minutes of break, 10 minutes of work, 10 minutes of break, kind of like that. And then I know I only have to do this for 10 minutes. And if I just don't want to do it after that time, I don't. But if I do want to do it after that time and I'm ready to hyper focus on it, I change my timer from 10 more minutes of chill to like however long I want to study for. And I don't have to work that long, but that's how long I'm allowed to work. The next thing is to gamify it. Now, what is gamifying it? If you're a Dungeons and Dragons person or a fighting battles person, your homework is a dragon that is 300 hit points. And every section of homework, we've talked about breaking down your homework. Every task you complete in your homework, it gives you a certain amount of hit points to take down that dragon. And if you get to the end, you have defeated the dragon. There you go, you've gamified it. If you listen to some music while you're doing it, that's fun. If you use Finch, which is my favorite for that kind of thing, well, I use it for habit tracking, but you can also use it for tracking your homework. You can gamify your homework that way. There's another one that I will link below. So if you look below, I will either link it or I will write the name of it down there. But it's basically built to gamify your homework. It's really cool. I'm getting tired and I'm having a hard time focusing. So I feel like I'm talking super duper fast and I feel like I'm like rushing through these, but it's been 30 minutes for me talking. So in case you were wondering, I'm tired, and now I'm gonna go take a break. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, give it a like. If you enjoyed it and want to see more, subscribe. If you have anything you want to hear about disabilities of any kind and mental health, please link below. If you have a disability and want to talk to me about making a video on here, let me know. And if you, I don't know, are going to college, let me know how that goes. I'm gonna go to bed now. Bye.